With the Oakland A's, we try to encourage those guys every Sunday at their home games, speak the word of God because they can't make it to church. And you'd be proud of those Oakland ball players because they love the Lord. Soul winners on that team. Donnie Moore, the founder of Radical Reality, he's the actual chaplain of the team, and years ago, back when Mark McGwire was playing with him, he wouldn't come to chapel, so he told Donnie, if you can break a bat in half, I'll come to chapel. And so Donnie said, well, I think I can do that. He saw Bo Jackson back then, he would slam it on his leg. So he went to lift it, and he went to slam it, and Mark said, no. I want you to lay it on your leg and push on it till it breaks. He said he read that it takes over a 400-pound bench press to do that. And Donnie thought, well, I think I can do it because I can bench press 530. So needless to say, Mark McGwire ended up in chapel that day to hear the word. Before I do that, I want to share a quick thought with you. If you could imagine for a moment this drum case being a screen, like a canvas that you would paint pictures on. And when we're born, the doctor, he hands us to our mother or father as a newborn baby. And our minds are like empty canvases. And people with their words, they begin to paint pictures on the canvas of our mind. And unfortunately for many of us, some of those words aren't so nice. And those words, what they do is they begin to develop who we are. And by the time we're in junior high school, early high school, that picture is nearly complete. Psychologists would call it our self-esteem. 3 areas that shape your life and your dreams. The first is the area of acceptance. So many of us live our lives to gain mere acceptance for the moment. We're always out to please the crowd. Let me tell you something, the crowd is usually wrong. If you live your life to please the crowd, to live for the crowd, you're gonna be up one minute, down the next. Your life's gonna be an emotional roller coaster, always at the mercy of those people around you, opinions of you. Hey, if you're gonna follow the crowd, you gotta find out where the crowd's going. So many people, places, and things dictate the choices they make, and it causes them to become the person they were never intended to be. I can think as we travel this country and we do these high school assemblies and junior high schools, and afterwards we do the feats of strength, and it's fun. Sometimes it's silly, sometimes there's failure involved. But at the end of the assembly, what amazes me is I ask those young people, what was your favorite part of the assembly? And every time without fail, they say your stories. It's not about the feats. Donnie used those years ago to get the attention of those ball players so he could have a message delivered to their ears. And now we go into those public schools and we do the same thing. Young people that would come to us and say things like, sir, I want to thank you for being here today. Did you mean what you said? We said, what did we say? They said, you said it was okay for me to say no to a boy. We said, yeah, it's okay. She said, you're the first man that's ever told me it's okay to say no to a man. I could take you there to San Jose, California, where a young man came to us after the assembly and he would say, I go home to a stepfather who tells me he hates me and he wishes I was never born every day. He said, what did I do to deserve that? He's learning life is pain and pain is life at a young age. And he's learning that he just better deal with it. The second area that shapes who we are is the area of performance. It's nothing wrong with performing on the athletic field, in the music, in the classroom, in your church. That's wonderful, perform, excel, but never perform for the crowd. If you're performing for the crowd, you're never gonna please them. We teach that with the Oakland A's ball players. They're a perfect example of acceptance by performance. You're only as good as your last performance. Booing you one day, cheering you the next day. Fair weather friends. Tell you what a true friend is. A true friend is someone who's gonna brag about your strengths and defend your weaknesses. That's a true friend. A true friend is an image maker, not an image breaker. See, anyone can break someone down with their words, but where are the people that are gonna lift people up and build them up to become the person they are meant to be? I like Transparent because Transparent, he's an image maker. He's always looking for an opportunity to share with someone, to push them toward their dreams, to inspire them. That third area that shapes who we are, and I'll be finished, is the area of importance. All of us need to feel important in our lives. It feels good to feel important. But we also all know what it's like to leave a room and hear everybody laughing and know that we are the butt of the joke. Everybody in this room at one time or another has exited a room and know that they are being laughed at. I take you there to Gridley, California 2 years ago, and a principal came to us at the end of that assembly. And she said, I loved your assembly today, but I wish you were here 2 weeks ago. We said, what happened 2 weeks ago? She said, if you were here then, maybe Kenny would still be here. We said, well, tell us about Kenny. She said, Kenny was an 8th grader, and Kenny was a little bit overweight. And every day those kids, they would poke fun at him, and they would call him things like fatty, and roly-poly, and fat boy. And you know, some of you laughed, but Kenny didn't laugh. Kenny went home every night and he cried himself to sleep. Kenny would cry out to a God he didn't know and ask him if he could do things he didn't even believe he could do. And one day Kenny got too much of it, and he went home and he went to his father's bedroom, and he opened that dresser drawer and he pulled out his father's gun. And Kenny walked outside and sat down by an oak tree and he penned a note. And then Kenny, he put that gun to his head and he pulled the trigger. And Kenny took his life in 8th grade. When his mom came home, she found his body there in the oak tree. And there on that note, it was these simple words. This is all it said. I can't take the teasing at school anymore. That was all it said. Those simple words, I can't take the teasing at school anymore. See, Kenny wasn't accepted. Kenny was not able to perform up to the crowd's expectation. And Kenny certainly didn't feel important about who he was. I want to tell you young people in here tonight, because there's many of you, you're important. You're important and you're valuable and you're special. And I may be the only man that's ever looked you in your eyes and told you that. But if I am, it's my honor to say tonight that you are loved and you're valuable and you have a purpose and a plan for your life. I had the opportunity also to be at the Lord's Gym there in Stockton, and many stories I hear daily. Some are nice stories, some are stories of victory, but others are not so lucky. One young man I can think of in particular, father died 2 days before his first birthday. He grew up very angry, very bitter, very resentful. His mom struggled. She wouldn't have enough money for food at times. She would work hard. She was a good mom. She would go and knock on the neighbor's door and ask for $1.25 to take home and go to the store and buy milk and pour it over their cereal, and that would be called dinner that night. And as he would get older, his muscles would get a little bit bigger, but his heart would grow much harder. And to be honest, the only productive thing he probably ever did is he liked to work out. Not to get big, not to be good looking, not for the sport, but because he wanted to get so big and so strong on the outside that no one would see how small and how weak he was on his inside. And he would waste that life. And then one day, someone asked him this question, do you believe in God? And he didn't have courage to express what he was really feeling. He just said, I don't want to talk about it. But inside what was going on was, why do bad things happen to good people? Where was God when his mom was struggling? Where was God when his dad died? Where was God when his brother became an alcoholic, getting 2 DUIs and put in jail? But something drew on him from that moment on. And I'm going to tell you something, church, because you say, man, that's a sad story, Dean. No, that's radical reality. But the story doesn't end there. Because God's a God of second chance. On October 20th, 2004, that young man walked into a church service for the first time in his life. And he saw guys breaking bricks and breaking bats and bending metal bars. And when they came forward to speak, they weren't talking Bible philosophy that was supposed to make that life make sense. They were simply telling their story. And then they said this, if you want to receive that God into your heart, the Spirit of Jesus into your heart, you need to walk forward to that altar. And I'm going to tell you something else, church. That young man, he's here today because you see, that's me. That's my story. On October 20th, 2004, 702 Atlantic Street, Roseville, California, 7:30 at night, I made the simplest yet the most powerful decision of my life. Amen. I walked from the back of the room down a long aisle like this. I got to an altar. I got down on my knee. And I spoke to a God I didn't even know. And I said, God, if you're real, would you do something with my life? And that night I heard him for the first time in my life. So loud but so gentle. And he said, one day, you're going to travel with that team. And you're going to encourage more young people not to have to go down the roads you've been down. That night, I gave my life not to a church, not to a religion, but to a person, and his name is Jesus. And I just want to tell you guys this. A hard fall means a high bounce when you're made of the right stuff. If you don't quit, you win. The victory's worth the fight. I'm going to break this bat. If you can crank that music up. I'm going to try to break this bat for you guys. And I'm not going to try to break this bat. I'm going to snap this bat in half.